All right, everyone, the big news of the day, of course, another high-altitude object was shot down the other day over the Aleutian Islands. It's a little island chain, of course, off of Alaska, and the whole thing is a little bit strange here, because I was told by the legacy media when the Chinese spy balloon was circulating around in the air over some of our sensitive nuclear sites that the reason that it wasn't going to be shot down is there could be damage to, debris could fall on someone, it could fall on someone's farm, and, the big situation, a cow died. Oh my God, now the taxpayers have to pay for the beef when it's been splattered all over the prairie up in Montana. We were told that it was dangerous to do that, to fire on the object at that time. And we were told it was also very difficult to do so. Now, to be clear, what was shot down is technically a UFO because we haven't identified what it was yet. UFO does not have alien connotations. Most often it is used in that context, but they're not claiming that this was a balloon, a weather balloon, spying balloon, or anything. So it could have been a flying saucer, for all we know. Maybe that's why they decided to fire on this one. I'm being glib, of course. It was probably another spying balloon. It's probably connected to the one that floated over the United States recently. There's probably a similarity between these two events. But the reaction was not similar. And I think I know why. But first we'll go into the contravention here. We were told by the Biden admin, Biden blame shifting to the military, that the military had said, we can't shoot it down, Mr. President, it's over a populated area. Now, there's not a whole lot of people in the Aleutian Islands, so that may not necessarily take effect, although I would point out that there are military bases there, and there are a few settled areas, mostly industrial seaports, for various fishing industry and stuff does exist there. There are settled areas. So you could have a debris field that's miles long, and it could hit somebody's cabin, or it could hit an endangered species. There's a polar bear or some shit. I don't know if there are polar bears in the Aleutian Islands, though. I'd have to fact check that. Anyway, we were told that was dangerous. This time it happened. The other contradiction that we see is that the Chinese spy balloon that wandered around over the continental United States did cross over that same general area. It crossed over the edge of Alaska and through the Aleutian Islands many days ago. It was not shot down at the time. Now, the decision not to fire on it after it had gone through Canada and then bent down into Montana it maybe doesn't apply here. Of course, this is Alaska. Why was the first spy balloon not shot down over that area before it penetrated continental airspace? I would think that if it's possible to do it this time, certainly they would have had the same forewarning, and then they claim that they did. They had been monitoring the balloon for days. Don't worry, everyone, everything's fine. Why is it that that object was not fired upon and this object was? And I can think of one explanation for this that makes a whole lot of sense, which is that the Biden admin right now is on heightened alert because of the first balloon. Ergo, they took the situation more seriously. Before, they didn't. They didn't immediately fire when it was still out over the Pacific, in this case, literally over territorial waters, not technically, physically over land at all. They didn't fire on it because they were caught with their pants down. They didn't expect the object to be there. They figured at first probably, weather balloon slipped its tether. Well, we're not gonna waste a $500,000 missile on bringing it down. They then realized belatedly with the first spy balloon that it was not just a weather balloon that had slipped its tether. It wasn't an atmospheric test of some sort. It was a surveillance device built by China, which appears to be the case. So now they're on alert. So now they're capable of responding. But a spy balloon did successfully penetrate the continental United States for several days, wandering around in the heartland before they fired on it. Once it was off the coast of Myrtle Beach. And by the way, they fired on it at that time to give people a spectacle. To say, well, look at us, we're big manly men. Joe Biden's a big boy, he can play with the other big boys. So we've got missiles too. Your balloons aren't safe from us. Now they'll take it more seriously though, because we already had one incursion. But the first time, I think that they fucked up. I think that they acted belatedly. You can't act once it's over the populated areas, supposedly. So once it crossed over, then it enters Canada. Well, you can't fire on it there. The Canadians probably don't have military capability to do so at this point because Justin Trudeau's a moron. Then once it re-enters U.S. airspace, the problem is it does make sense not to fire on it when it's directly over a nuclear silo. That makes sense. It's right above the testing facility here. That might be a little bit of a problem. You know, some of that debris could fall on a radar station or something like that. We'll wait. And then, of course, once it moves further inland, you do get more like towns and shit like that. There's not a whole lot going on in Montana of a non-military nature unless it involves fucking potatoes. You can't really fire on it over St. Louis, though. Or over Myrtle Beach itself. You have to wait till it goes offshore. I get the suspicion that all of the reporting we got for the first balloon was ass covering. Well, the reason why Biden didn't fire on it is because the military advisors said not to. And the military advisors said not to because of the danger of falling debris. By the way, it would be real difficult to do this. Okay, if it's real difficult, why have we done it twice now in the last couple of weeks? Real difficulty there. One shot, one kill. Those balloons this Chinese technology is amazing. The fact is that the legacy media and the Biden admin lied to us when apparently it had been monitoring proactively the first balloon days before it entered our airspace at all. We know that because the action is completely differential. We could have fired on the first one when it was still over territorial waters. You could have just gotten a jet up there, an hour in prep, sent it over. Apparently, you press the trigger once, and then you land, and then you act like, you know, a Top Gun scene or something like that. That's apparently how easy it is, because we've done it twice. So we were lied to about that. We were lied to about the reasons for not firing on it. This one didn't seem to be a problem when it had just barely entered U.S. airspace. The difference is that the first one was not being proactively monitored. That's what I genuinely believe explains the scenario, the differential and the run-up cope thereafter. The legacy media probably got an emergency email from Biden saying, here, put this story out. We need to do some ass covering. We fired on the second one because we actually knew that others were probably going to be incoming. But we didn't because we didn't have enough readiness, enough preparedness, and we don't have an actual leader. We have a steward who's completely out to lunch. We didn't have anything in place to deal with the situation until we knew that such a situation potentially would exist in the future. We were caught with our pants down. I hazard a guess that Joe Biden was asleep, by the way, when the first balloon started drifting near territorial waters, and they probably didn't want to wake him. They're like, well, you know, this dude's old. He just had his bran muffin bowel movement. He's laying down for his 2-hour nappy time with his cozy banky and things, and his little collection of dolls around him, probably like Osama bin Laden and shit, plushies and stuff. He's comfy. We're not going to do anything. It's probably just a weather balloon. Just fucking ignore it. And then they realized only later that it was something else. Here's the other thing. If the public is looking up at the sky when it's dipping down in altitude, and they're capable of seeing this object, and they understand looking at it, it doesn't look exactly like a fucking weather balloon. It looks like something else. It becomes a problem because you've got pictures and video of it, and if you don't tell people it's there, you're going to have a bunch of UFO sightings, and with modern optics, of course, the plausibility of it being an alien spacecraft is a little bit lower these days. So you're going to have to explain to the public why you're not willing to tell them what the fuck is up in the sky above their farm. They were caught with their pants down. A spy balloon penetrated U.S. airspace. Nothing was done because they couldn't do anything because they acted too late. They didn't realize probably it was a spying device at first. I think that's why the first object was not shot down, and this object they took a little bit more seriously. Well, it's nice to know that from here on in the future, they'll probably bring them down before they conduct all of their surveillance over the entire heartland of the United States. Would have been nice if they had acted sooner with the first device. Apparently, there's a huge difference. In the last couple of weeks, we've suddenly gone from being incapable of firing on a high-altitude balloon to being able to bullseye them out of the sky at a moment's notice. Biden will probably come out, do a presser, and say, we've made major military progress under my administration. Those Chinese balloons that were so immaculately contrapted, they were so difficult to fire on. They're just so high up in the sky, and it's hard to find them. They're hard to see on radar. They're technologically advanced friggin' balloons that they've got over in China, I suppose. But now our technology has caught up. Now we have anti-balloon warning systems. That's about all. Peace out.